Hello everyone, you're wondering why Pallav Bagla is right here in the studio with me, because he's breaking a big piece of story which will shake up the entire space establishment around the globe. The timely detection of a crack in an oxidizer line in the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, which will take 4 astronauts, including India's Shubhanshu Shukla, to the International Space Station, averted a major disaster. The fault was observed following a demand for due diligence from the ISRO chairman, Dr. V Narayanan. And despite admitting to a fuel leak, the SpaceX team decided to launch the ailing rocket, the leaking rocket, on June 11th. Why did they do that is the question that I'm going to ask Pallav Bagla in just 10 seconds. However, after learning of this leak, ISRO chief, sources tell Pallav Bagla, that Dr. Narayanan strongly disagreed with the decision and demanded that full correction with validation by proper tests, including low temperature leak tests, be carried out. It was upon his insistence that this entire leak was rectified. Pallav Bagla, award-winning science editor of NDTV, is joining us. Pallav, why was SpaceX insisting to fly with a leaking rocket?
Well, it's very hard to second guess what was in the minds of the SpaceX specialists. But the first disclosure that there was a leak in the oxygen line, or the liquid oxygen leak, came from SpaceX itself. And they was hoping to put on some kind of a band-aid solution on the rocket and purge the leak and fly it. That is when the ISRO chairman, who is himself a specialist on liquid engines, a specialist on liquid oxygen engines, cryogenic engines, he put his foot down saying, this is not permissible, this is not acceptable. Even many Indian rocket specialists I spoke to in India said if there was a liquid oxygen leak on the rocket, they would never fly it after putting on some kind of repairs on the launch pad. So the ISRO chairman, who is himself stationed at the Kennedy Space Center, put out a note saying that no, unless these fixes happen and unless he is satisfied with the fixes, the rocket will not fly. Remember, it's very hard for one person, that to the chairman of ISRO, to take on the might of SpaceX and Elon Musk. But he prevailed. And ultimately, I'm told, all of the parties are thanking him for having saved the rocket and the lives of the 4 astronauts.
Absolutely.
It would have been a disaster.
Absolutely, because it would have endangered the lives of these astronauts. Pallav Bagla, when you say a note was written by the ISRO chief, who did he write this note to and when was it actually written?
Well, this came out on June 12th when SpaceX declared that there was a leak on the rocket and that they were trying to fix in 24 hours. After that, the chairman of ISRO wrote a note to Axiom Space and to SpaceX and to the establishment there that this is not acceptable. And he laid out 3 or 4 questions, and those questions, only when they were answered, did he say, will he give permission to fly India's astronaut? It reached a point, I am told, where the ISRO chairman told the establishment in America that they will pull out India's astronaut, which is Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, from the Axiom 4 mission unless the repairs are done to the satisfaction of ISRO. And that would have been, it's a very tough stand to take, but the ISRO chairman himself is a liquid propulsion expert, somebody who understands a thing or two about liquid oxygen and when it leaks.
Yes, Pallav, if SpaceX knew about this leak, then why did they insist on it first? My next question would be, how difficult do you think it would have been for the ISRO chief to single-handedly take on the might of Elon Musk and SpaceX?
See, certainly, it's not easy to take on the might of Elon Musk and SpaceX, but then when you're technically sound, and most of the people who interact at that level with SpaceX and the heads of space agencies are usually administrators and politicians and not technical experts. So when they encountered with the ISRO chairman, Dr. V Narayanan, they were not sure initially who they were encountering with, but he's technically so sound that they finally gave in. And see, to the credit of Dr. Narayanan, ISRO, and the 13-member team which is sitting there in Kennedy Space Center, finally they relented. Initially what was to be a leak was found to be a crack, and then they changed the line, and now the rocket has been repaired to the satisfaction of Dr. Narayanan and the ISRO team, and the launch is likely to happen on June 19th. But taking on the SpaceX team was not easy, and repeatedly I was getting the feedback that it's very tough and the pressure is very high. But then when you are technically sound, you can take on the world, and that's what the ISRO chairman did.
My last question, the mission has been postponed 5 times before getting a new launch date, which we finally have. And this new launch date has been announced by Dr. Narayanan himself. The question is that given the back and forth when it was happening, did Dr. Narayanan, because you are always in touch with him on a real-time basis, perhaps messaging him even now, did he at any point think that perhaps fixing it temporarily, and it's about 14 days in space, this leak should not be ignored, and no matter what, and that's the reason why he went ahead with it?
No, it was quite clear to the ISRO team that the leak which was on the first stage of the rocket is not permissible, and that the repair which was being offered, which is if you call in Indian terms, a kind of a jugaad which was being done on the launch pad, was certainly not acceptable unless the validation tests were done. That is why the SpaceX team changed the cracked line. Then they went in for a cold test once again, and now the ISRO chairman seems to be satisfied with the results, and hopefully the mission will go off successfully. But let me emphasize, repeatedly the ISRO team and the chairman told me if they had gone ahead with the launch with the cracked weld crack which was noticed on the oxygen line, it could have resulted in a fireball and the rocket would have exploded soon after. And that would have been disastrous, not just for the Indian astronauts, but for the 3 crew and the future of the entire human space flight program, which is the Gaganyaan program, because this is the first baby step for Gaganyaan.
That's right.
So the stand taken by ISRO has been lauded by many people I spoke to, and Dr. Narayanan's technical expertise is being respected across the world for what he did.
And this entire story, a world exclusive of NDTV, of Pallav Bagla, is on NDTV.com. Remember, had this crack not been detected, then the rocket could have suffered a major failure at liftoff, since liquid oxygen is highly inflammable. So certainly, this flagging of this major, the leakage saved lives and also the future of space movement.
Can I add one thing, Maria? I think the Science Minister of India, Dr. Jiten Singh, also played a role, because he was being kept in the loop for all the decisions which were being taken by the ISRO chairman, and the Science Minister himself is a scientist. So he was in the loop with the decision making, and that is why I think the ISRO chairman could take such a tough stand and get things rectified. We are all hoping and praying that the mission goes off well, and Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla successfully lifts off to the International Space Station as a happy landing, and that is what all of them were praying, and that is what ISRO also wanted, which is why they did what they did, which is to put their foot down, जिसको कहते हैं अंगद की टांग गाड़ के रख देना और हिलना नहीं जब तक ये हो नहीं जाए.
जी, Pallav Bagla, really appreciate your time.